So I'm going to show you guys how I do a quick maintenance and lube up the seals on a Super Deluxe, the one that I have on my bike. And there's a couple tools that you really don't need, but they'll come in handy. The first one being a trailer valve puller, so that you can take the valve off. You don't need it necessarily, you can just let the air out. I normally like to just take the valve off just to make sure that all the air has been taken out of the can. And that will make it easier for the can to come apart. The second tool you need is some type of wrench strap. Prior to doing this though, I want to show you that, or I want to let you guys know that first, one of the things that you need to consider is taking this bushing out of the way. On mine I have bearing bushing or needle bushings. Normally you'll have a different type of bushing on more setups, but just make sure you take it out of the way. Otherwise, when you take the can off and out, it won't let you take it all the way out of the damper body. So go ahead and remove that out of the way too. Get your wrench strap. Remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Make sure it's clamped down to something sturdy, like a vise, or you can just have someone else hold it. And then we're gonna go ahead and turn it. And it's loose it off ready now, so I can just take it off the hand. There might be a little bit of pressure left, not because of the air, but because there's a spring. You saw how it popped up. And so go ahead and take it off, and your can is off. Can's off. There's a couple seals in there that we're going to clean. See how gunky it is, and we're going to re-lube again. Go ahead and take your spring off as well. Put to the side. Let's get some paper and clean it very well. There is 2 glide seals here that make sure they're not worn out. Make sure that also when you put the can in, they're sitting completely aligned to one another. Otherwise, you can actually bend it and cause it to deform. And when you sit on the bike, you'll hear a big squeak. And it'll be just air leaking air around it, or oil. So I'm telling you that because it happened to me. So I have to get new glide seals, and there's that main seal is there. Well, make sure you clean very well around it. Damper shaft. And in there, getting the crevices. Make sure you get any residual oil, so that way you add oil, the 2 mLs that it requires, it won't be adding to the one that's already in there, because that will make your shock perform differently. You'll have less space in your air can. So now that they're clean, you can use alcohol for this. I've seen people use alcohol. I'd rather not. I've just cleaned it very thoroughly. You can use Lycodium or light grease. This is a specialty grease used for seals. And you can get a whole tub for about 10-20 bucks, and it will last you years. I've had this one for years. It doesn't really go bad. And apply a light amount of grease to the seal and the glide rings. It. Make sure you clean any residual grease from the interface with the air can. There we go. Now, this is what stops the dirt and grime from getting into your dumper, or the actual mechanism inside. So make sure you go ahead and clean that as well. Use a rag, around it a couple times. So currently on my shock, I have one spacer on to reduce the volume on it, and I've noticed that I was maxing it out and I was having to put too much air. So one of the things you guys can do is add another spacer, and so that way you can run a lower pressure on your shock and not max it out. Now this will change the dynamics of the shock. You'll get more of a rebound towards the end of the travel. It just snaps in there. And this particular shock, I believe, takes only 2 spacers as the max. So just make sure it's nice and snug in there. Got the amount maximum. I'm about 230 pounds and around about 250 pounds of pressure, which is 1 spacer. So I'll probably bring it down to around 230, 235 with 2 spacers. Go ahead and make sure we clean the spring as well. And this spring does not require grease, unlike seals. Let's go ahead and attach that on there. And now for this part, you'll need some Rockshox oil, 3 weight or different weight. It really doesn't matter because you're adding about 2 mLs in here. It's just for a small amount of lubrication. There are kits that come like this one, and it says it's a 15W for the air can and the lube. I don't know if you guys can read it. It comes with the seal as well, the grease for the seal. There's about 2 mLs in here, so you can use any 15 weight. Now Rockshox oil tends to be a little bit expensive for the amount you get. Usually something like this will run you about $9 to $15, depends where you get it. You can also go to your motorcycle supply store and get fork oil. Here's the same, basically oil, just a different formula, minus the additive and colors, and it's 15 weight. You can go ahead and use that as well. So, I want to share this with you guys as well. Trial and error. I ended up putting the second spacer like so in this orientation, and I couldn't fit the Schrader valve all the way in. If that happens, it's because this is oriented the wrong way. So it goes like so, with this little bevel right towards the Schrader valve. Otherwise, your Schrader bar will not go all the way in. So keep that in mind. Thought I added it. Trial and error. I never ran into that problem before, and it took me about a couple minutes to troubleshoot it. You can see where the Schrader valve started to push up against it because it meets resistance right there. So this is the right orientation for it. To put the air can back on, you'll have to first make sure you have the spring on. There is one more thing you have to lubricate, and that is this seal around the air can where it bites in. It's a regular rubber seal, and I'm using some seal grease for it. You're going to meet some resistance once you first attach it, because air is going to get trapped on the negative chamber. And so you have to have something to push up against, like a vise or some type of surface. I'm going to go ahead and add 2 mLs of oil. Like so. Now this is the difficult part. Like I mentioned, you're going to have something to push up against. And it's only for a little bit, so that you can first get the first couple threads engaged. Once it engages, go ahead and keep turning it. And it's supposed to be hand tight. And voila, your shock is ready to be used again. Oh, don't forget to put your bushing back on. And don't forget to clean the grease out of it. And brand new, or newer seals, I guess, relatively to how gunky they were before. So that's how you service the air can on a shock.